Asato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityurma amritam gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real, lead us from darkness unto light, lead us from death to immortality. Om, peace, peace, peace. Namaste and good morning. My pranams to Revered Mataji, who's made all this possible and who is kind enough to organize this and have us here. We will continue from what we were studying yesterday. Some of you may be new here. One advantage you have in the Ashtavakra is it's all the same, no matter where. It's like they say, it's like the ocean. Wherever you touch and dip and taste, it's the same salty taste. So wherever you taste the Ashtavakra, it's the same taste of Brahman. So if you miss 2 classes, 3 classes earlier, it doesn't matter. It's going to say the same thing anyway. That's the beauty of it. It pounds it into us, our limitless nature, and it continuously points us in that direction. That's why reading the Ashtavakra in a contemplative mood is equal to Vedantic meditation. It is equal to Nididhyasana, non-dual meditation. Let's just catch up by chanting the earlier mantras which we have done, chapter 15, verse 4 onwards. We can chant together. Verse 4. Na tvam deho na te deho bhokta karta na va bhavan chidruposi sada sakshi nirapeksha sukham chara ragadvesho manodharmo namanaste kadachana nirvikalposi bodhatma Nirvikara sukham chara sarvabhuteshu chatmanam sarvabhutani chatmani vigyaya nirahankaro nirmamastvam sukhi bhava vishwam spurati yatredam taranga iva sagare Tattvam eva na sandeha chinmurte vijvaro bhava shraddhasva tata shraddhasva natram moha kurushva bho jnanasvarupo bhagavan atma tvam prakrite paraha gunai samveshtito deha तिष्ठत्यायाति याति च आत्मानगन्ता नागन्ता किमेनम् अनुशोचसि देहस्तिष्ठतु कल्पान्तम् गच्छत्वद्वैव वा पुनः क्व वृद्धि क्व च वा हानि तव चिन्मात्ररूपिणः. Ashtavakra starts off by telling us what seems to be the most obvious fact about ourselves, what we take it to be obviously true, that I am this body. He says, you are not. You are not. You are the experiencer of this body. Note, everything that Ashtavakra says is a fact right here. If we get what he says, we should say, yes, of course. How come I never thought of that earlier? It's pretty obvious. Am I not experiencing this body? I can see this body, I can touch this body, I can taste, smell this, and the body is experience. It's an object of experience. I am the subject which is experiencing the body, and it's true. I am experiencing the world through this body. But the fact is, just as this table is an object and not me, the subject, the body is also an object and not me, the subject. I am aware of the body. I exist and I am aware of the body. Notice, when you fall asleep and you dream, you're still aware because you're having experiences. Dream is a kind of experience, but you're not aware of the body. What does that mean? What's the point there? The point is you can continue to be a conscious, experiencing entity, an existence, a subject, without the body as an object. Which means, in principle at least, it can exist without this body. So the body is an object. I am the subject. I am the knower. The body is the known. I am the drashta. The body is the drishya. The knower and the known, the subject and object can never be the same thing. And therefore, I am not the body. The body is a continuous mass of change. And I am the unchanging experiencer in this body. So the changing and unchanging can never be the same thing. Therefore, I'm not the body. I am aware. I am conscious. The body is not aware, not conscious. Therefore, I'm not the body, because conscious and not conscious cannot literally be the same thing. So I am not the body. And for obvious reasons, if you just reflect a little bit upon it, at least intellectually, at least conceptually, we can come to see what he's trying to say. And then more useful is if we notice it in as a matter of fact, that it is so. And then we would say that, oh yes, I never meant that I'm literally the skeleton and this flesh and blood. No, what I mean is this biological machine, this body, obviously I am not this body, but it's my body. And Ashtavakra says, no, not even that. It's not your body. So you can say it's the creation of the Lord. The Lord has created it. God has created it. God is maintaining it. And one day by the wish of God, it will go. You do not own this body. You did not make this body. You do not control this body. You are not in charge of its coming and its eventual dissolution. It's not yours. It's not ours. At most, we have custody of it, trusteeship of it, use of it, rent a car for the time being. And the Lord has given it to us gratis, free, for our own spiritual evolution. Not your body. Then what am I? As long as I thought I was this body, it was pretty clear. I am this thing. But now I'm not very sure. What am I? Notice, you're aware. You're conscious. Throughout our days, throughout all our experiences, physical experience, sensory experience, mental experience, pleasant experiences, unpleasant experiences, one common factor which cannot be dismissed is consciousness, awareness. In all our waking experiences, in our dreams, even in the blankness of deep sleep, these are all experiences. And if these are experiences, consciousness must be present. So the one common thing present in everything in our lives is consciousness, awareness. So clearly that must be an essential feature of what you are, what I am. Atman is awareness, this unchanging, limitless consciousness. Chidruposi. Ever the witness, never the witnessed. Ever the subject, never the object. And similarly, he says, we are not even the mind. The mind has thoughts, feelings, emotions, likes and dislikes. They belong to the mind, not to you. Yes, that's true, but the mind belongs to me. And Ashtavakra says, no, it doesn't. Just like this physical body comes and goes, created by some power beyond our control. We are given the trusteeship of it now. Similarly, the mind has been created by some power beyond our control. We are given the trusteeship of it now. We have nothing to do with it. It's a vehicle for our spiritual development, but it's not you, it's not yours. This is a tremendous insight. And if we think about it, it's greatly freeing. Not that you'll become mindless. Don't worry. Just by this, you will not become bodiless or mindless. The body will be there. You have no control over it. And when it will not be there, that also you have no control over. One day it will go. So both body and mind are there for our use, for our development, but it's not you, not yours. And that's a great, great freedom. You are this limitless consciousness, awareness. We are using terms like consciousness, awareness. The ancients called it spirit, soul, Atma. But then we have made a distinction between the world and ourselves. Look, I'm speaking in terms of subject, object, and they are different. I'm speaking in terms of self, not self, and they are different. This is what I'm saying all the time. Next, Ashtavakra pulls it back, retracts it. He said, actually, they're not different. First of all, it is the same consciousness in all beings, like a thread running through a garland. It's the same consciousness, golden thread of consciousness running through all beings. As bodies, we are different. As persons, we are different. As consciousness, we are not different. We are not parts of the same consciousness. We are not the same type of consciousness. We are exactly, literally one and the same consciousness. So this one consciousness running through all beings, this is what I am. This is what you are. So he said, you and I, then we are separate. You're saying you and I, only for purposes of language, only for talking. But you and I are the same reality. We're literally one reality at the level of consciousness. And then he goes further. It's not that there is one consciousness running through all of us, and that's one consciousness illumining all sentient beings in this universe. No, it's rather all beings are in that consciousness. That's sometimes difficult to understand. But it's actually a very simple fact. The best way to understand it is to look at your own experience right now. Just as you say, if you suppose you think of a thought, like a flower, maybe a rose. Now, wouldn't you say the rose is in your mind when you're imagining a rose in the mind? It's in your mind, right? Your mind is not in the rose is in your mind. It appears, basically what I mean is, it appears in your mind. In the same way, is it not a simple fact that the entire universe, whatever you experience, whatever you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, whatever we think about, whatever we feel, whatever we remember, all of that is in awareness? That's a big fact, because our common sense idea is, no, this thing is out there and I come as awareness and experience it. That's what we feel. The room is here and you light up the light and light falls on this room and illumines it. But the light and the room are different. And the chairs which are illumined, the people who are illumined, they're different from the light. And we think of, initially we are told to think of consciousness as a light like this, illumining everything. But now, Ashtavakra is forcing us to shift, go further. It is the same light in all beings. And not only that, everything is appearing in that light. Like reflections in a mirror. If I put a mirror here, there'll be people here, there'll be chairs here, there'll be a fan and a ceiling, and the whole room will be seen here. But when you look at the mirror, you see everything, but actually what's there in the mirror? It's just glass. A beautiful analogy is given in the Yoga Vashishta. Sarasiyeva tatadrumaha. Just like a beautiful lake. I've seen this in Canada. They're full of lakes. And very clear water. And very still in the morning when there is no breeze. Absolutely still. And then you can see the mountains and the startlingly blue sky and the forests. They all are reflected. Even a bird flying is all in the lake. So just like the example is just like trees on the bank of a lake when they appear in the lake. So in the lake, you see trees and mountains and a bird and the sky, all of them clearly you can see in the lake. But if you try to go there and say, pluck a flower from the tree, all you'll do is get your hand wet because it's only water. You might say, hey, wait a minute. There is a mountain and trees and sky outside and that's being reflected in the lake. Set that aside. It's an example. An example is meant to prove one point. If in those days, if they had TVs and, computer screens, then that example would have been given. But because they didn't have that, they had mirrors, they had lakes. The entire universe, all objects, all people, all living beings, non-living things, the vast and the small, the quasars and quarks, they are all appearances in consciousness. Then he goes on to say, Vishwam Spurati Yatredam, as the entire universe appears in you as waves appear in the ocean. You are that. Oh, he calls you, oh consciousness, oh awareness. Don't say my consciousness or my awareness. That's a trick that the mind plays. Consciousness is not like my liver or my kidney. I am awareness. be free of the fever of samsara. Ashtavakra says, believe in this. Take this seriously. If you can't get it, if it's too subtle or too dramatic or too awesome to digest right now, just believe in it. Because I'm telling you, because this ancient wisdom tradition is telling us, take it as an article of faith and start, fake it till you make it. If you believe in it, if you have faith in it, the understanding also comes more easily. It's not that you don't have to understand, you have to understand. In the path of Advaita Vedanta, it's not a path of believing in something. It's not a path of just accepting it. It's a path where we have to get clarity and see that, yes, it is so. One argument which will come in people's minds all the time. Hey, just a minute. All this consciousness talk, awareness, consciousness, isn't it just a product of the brain? And your precious consciousness, the moment the brain dies, when the body dies, the brain dies, that's it, it's gone, you're gone. Right? So isn't consciousness being produced by this body, especially the brain and the nervous system? In that case, the whole philosophy falls flat. You are there as long as the body is functioning, and when the body dies, you're gone. So that's materialism. In ancient India also, they had these materialists, lots of them. They were called Charvakas. Literally, Charvaka means sweet talker. The materialist would say, look, forget all this religion business. There's no soul, no heaven, no God. It's just matter, energy. Sounds a lot like a lot of people today. We have more and more of them today. It's a perennially popular philosophy, materialism. So there's no God, none of that Advaita or Sankhya nonsense of pure consciousness, because all this pure consciousness will anyway die when the body dies. So what's the implication? You have to look at the implication of these philosophies. What's the implication? Make hay while the sun shines. Now you have YOLO. You live only once. So take as many, the consequence, what is the consequence, implication of the YOLO philosophy? Take as many selfies as possible. That's the consequence. Go in lots of places and meet lots of people and do lots of interesting things and keep taking selfies and posting them online. That's the philosophy. You live only once. There's another term somebody told me, JOMO. Have you heard of that? Joy of missing out. The fear of missing out is there. Something is happening. Everybody's talking about it. I must be part of it. No. You must not be part of it. Stop. If you've seen it once, twice, thrice, 10 times, enough. Precious time is going by. It will just be a variation of what you have experienced. The best of vacations, the best of gadgets, the latest things available on Black Friday. If you've seen one Black Friday, it's all black. All throughout. So stop. Enough already. Step back. But what about this argument of the materialists? Isn't consciousness a product of the body-mind, of the body, of the brain? And so this is, the hard problem of consciousness. I've mentioned this many times. If you Google it, you should Google it. For anybody interested in Advaita, Buddhism, Sankhya, they should Google it. The hard problem of consciousness. This is the most important question in modern science, not only just in brain science, neuroscience, not only just in philosophy, not only just in AI. These are all the people, experts who are interested in this hard problem of consciousness. But in all of science, this is the cutting edge, this is the hot topic now. How can a material thing like the brain produce consciousness? So anyway, look it up. Look up David Chalmers. He's the one who coined the term and popularized the problem. He's given TED Talks and stuff. He's the head of the Mind-Brain Consciousness Unit in NYU. But can't you explain consciousness with the help of the brain? Through neuroscience, brain science. Many people think so. 25 years ago, Christoph Koch, who was at that time the chief scientist of the Paul Allen Brain Institute, he and David Chalmers had a bet. David Chalmers says you cannot explain consciousness through material processes like the brain. And Christoph Koch said, we can. We are making remarkable advances. This was in 1998 or something. Remarkable advances in neuroscience. And therefore, right now we cannot, but very soon we will make significant breakthroughs and we will be able to explain consciousness through brain processes. Let's have a bet. And they had a bet in 1998 or something like that. And people had forgotten about it until somebody reminded them just last month. 25 years have passed. So who won the bet? The experts got together and unanimously, they said, David Chalmers has won the bet. We have not made any breakthrough, any progress at all in trying to understand consciousness. By doing neuroscience and brain science, we have understood a lot more about the brain. There's no doubt about it. A lot of advances have been made, but the mystery of consciousness remains a mystery. And the reason is the brain does not produce consciousness. Clearly, brain is implicated, it's closely correlated with our conscious experiences. And from a Vedantic perspective, we can say why the brain is closely connected with our conscious experiences. Because remember, all our conscious experiences, they are basically our experiences, basically. All experience is basically consciousness plus object. C plus O is equal to E. I coined that equation. But it's a no-brainer. In more ways than one. Pun intended, no-brainer. Consciousness is a no-brainer because it's not in the brain. But consciousness plus object is equal to experience. So I'm aware, and here is an object. Now I'm aware of it. Of course, the eyes and the brain and the brain and the mind, especially the mind and the eyes and the light and everything plays a role, but I am aware of it now. So all our experiences are of this form, whether you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, whether you think, whether you enjoy, suffer, pain, pleasure, all of it is of this form, consciousness plus object. Think about it. The consciousness is the subject and the object is the object. Put them together, you have experience. Interestingly, if you remove the object, the absence of the object is also an experience. If you remove the object, consciousness doesn't disappear because consciousness notes the absence of the object. Okay. Now one can see why the brain might be an important part of experience. The reason is our objects continuously keep on changing. We experience an enormous variety of objects throughout our days. And those are objective. So some process must be there for presenting a variety of objects to consciousness. And that's what the brain does. And that's why there is a type, this is all from the Advaitic perspective. This is the contribution that Advaita Sankhya can make to modern consciousness studies. This is an important insight. There's a tight correlation between what we experience and the neurological activity in the brain. So there are fMRI scans which reveal when we smell, when we taste, when we see, when we feel pain, when we imagine something, different parts of the brain light up. Those are different parts of the brain lighting up in response to various objects being presented. All of it deals with the object side of it. The consciousness is always there lighting up the objects as they're presented. This is a very elegant way of understanding what's going on in our experience. A Buddhist master said, Tibetan Buddhist master, if you insist that something objective like the brain or a computer can produce consciousness, you have two huge philosophical problems. First of all, you have to admit then there is an external world apart from consciousness. And you say, yeah, what's wrong with that? But then you have to prove it. In philosophy, this is called the problem of idealism and realism. An ancient problem, not solved till now. How do you know that there is an external world outside beyond awareness? Because everything that is experienced in awareness. By the equation, consciousness plus object is equal to experience. You can't leave a consciousness out of it. So how do you know there is an object outside consciousness? Isn't it all appearing in consciousness? And suppose you did assume that, let's go by common sense, there is a world outside consciousness. Then the next big problem will come up, which is the hard problem of consciousness. How does this world produce consciousness then? So two huge problems. In the technical names are the problem of idealism and the problem of idealism, not in the sense of an ideal person who has got lots of ideals in that. No, a technical name in philosophy, idealism. And the second problem is the hard problem of consciousness. These two problems will have to be overcome. They're theoretical problems in principle. They have to be overcome before you can assert that there is an objective world out there, an object called the brain, which is producing the subject or consciousness. Anyway, that's all aside. Now, let's then what Ashtavakra does is, you are limitless consciousness and in you the world is appearing. Then he says, what you should do is look at the benefits of this philosophy. What does it do for you? And one of the biggest benefits, the real biggie, Ashtavakra has pointed out, it removes the fear of death immediately. It shows you that you are immortal. You could not die because death belongs to the body. And if you say, well, when the body dies, you die because you are produced by the body. We just showed that that problem has not been solved at all. That's the hard problem of consciousness. Show me how you are produced by the body. Nobody can. So you do not die with the death of the body. You are immortal. You do not change with the changing of the mind. You are unchanging. Unchanging and immortal consciousness you are. You have no fear of death. The body will go in its own way. You cannot hold it back. The Bible says, who amongst you can add even a single day to their lives? So fear of death goes away. In Silicon Valley, there are a lot of people putting in millions and billions in the hope of immortality, bodily immortality, that I will continue somehow, gene therapy, and so many things they're thinking of. Cryogenic preservation. When the body dies, it'll preserve it, freeze it until technology develops to revive me again. Something like Kumbhakarna or something will come up. Or uploading to the cloud. If the body dies, you will be uploaded, your mind will be uploaded to the cloud. I mentioned that documentary yesterday in Mysteries of the Unexplained, History Channel, I think, where I told them that you don't have to worry about being immortal physically. You already are immortal. You don't have to make yourself immortal. You don't have to research it. You're choicelessly immortal. You can't help it. They were not interested. They want to continue in the same old body. Now, let's go ahead. 11th verse. Look at the benefits, not just the biggies like death, but also small things, smaller things like unhappiness, frustration, illness, anxiety, fear. See what happens to them if you look at it from the perspective of being limitless consciousness. 11th verse. Tvayananta maham bodhau, Tvayananta maham bodhau, Vishwabichi swabhavataha, Vishwabichi swabhavataha, Udetu vastamayatu, Udetu vastamayatu, Nate vriddhi navakshatihi. In you who are the infinite ocean of consciousness, let the waves of the universe rise or fall according to their own nature. That means no gain or loss to you. So the ocean metaphor. I like this little example. I've mentioned it a number of times, the parable of the little wave. So imagine out there in the ocean, there's a little wave which arises and it races along. So it sees other little waves and it goes to wave kindergarten, preschool maybe, and then it's growing up and then it makes friends with other little waves. Some are its friends, some are mean to it, and the little wave dislikes those waves, likes these waves. Sometimes it sees huge waves, maybe like a tsunami wave, and says, wow, that's amazing, I can never be like that. Sometimes it sees a smaller wave, a bubble maybe, and thinks, oh, what a loser, the smaller than me. And so on it goes in its little wave life. One day, it begins to see that there's something there. There's a great tumult going on, and it says to a senior wave, "What's that?" "Oh, that's the seashore. That's the east coast of the United States." What happens there? "Oh, all the waves go there to die." What? Yes. You can see they're all crashing against the shore and they're bursting into foam, and that's it. That's it. That's over. And he says, but that means, am I going to die too? I'm sorry, you are. Now the wave is depressed, fear of death. Oh God, what's going to happen? It's coming up pretty fast. Then a Vedanta wave comes along next to it. And he says, it's true that the wave form dies, but there is something called water which doesn't die. Really? Yes, there's water. Water doesn't die. The wave smashes against the coast and it becomes foam and surf. It's still water. So water doesn't die. Water is immortal. And the little wave says, wow, good for water, but what about me? But you are water, Tattvamasi. Where am I water? Well, look into yourself, look deep into yourself. At your very core, you will discover something that's water. And when you discover that, you look around a little more, it's not just your core, it's your top and your bottom and your sides and your inside and your outside. It's all water. It says, wow, and this will never die? No, it'll just change form. You won't be a wave, maybe you will be 1,000 droplets. Maybe the sun will evaporate you and you'll climb to the skies. This is an example given by Vivekananda. You'll climb up to the skies and float along and come down as blessed rain to a thirsty land and then flow back into the ocean. You'll always be water. And it's an amazing journey. Wow, that's great. Not only that, look around you, all those other waves, they're also water. Oh, good, that's nice. Not only they are water, it's the same water. Look at the margin between you, the boundary between you and the next wave. On this side is water, on that side is water. And in between the boundary, what you think, this is me and that's that wave. That boundary is also water. There's no boundary, there's no margin, there's no border. It's one limitless mass of water. And you are that. Every wave you are as water. It's not that you are in all the waves. All the waves are you. You can see how it's echoing Ashtavakra. I am the same water in all waves. So I am the same consciousness in all beings. And next he says, Sarvabhutani Chatmani. All the waves are in me, the water. We think there is water in the wave, but it's more true to say that the wave is in water. Isn't it true? It's the water itself which comes up as the wave and then subsides, and it's water all throughout. And so you are all the waves. You are this entire ocean. All the waves depend upon you. They come, arise in you, and they subside back into you, the big and the small. When the waves arise, you do not increase. You're still water. The ocean is still the same. When the waves subside, you're still the same. You lost nothing. You're exactly the same water. All the waves are one with you. The entire ocean is one with you. And thus you abide. He says, in the infinite ocean of consciousness, the waves arise of their own nature. Let them, of their own nature, through the mechanism of causality, cause and effect, karma, things will keep on happening in the world, in spite of your best efforts. Put in the good karma, it will be a little better. Put in bad karma, it will be a little worse. You cannot prevent it. Vivekananda says, good, good, bad, bad, and none escape the law. Whosoever wears the form, whosoever is a wave, must wear the chain too. But then what can Vedanta do? Vedanta can tell you you are the water. But far beyond name and form, this is Vivekananda again. Far beyond name and form is Atman ever free. No, thou art that, sannyasi board. Say Om Tat Sat Om. Notice, I am this one limitless consciousness in which, focused through one body and mind, I feel I am this one. But now I have this knowledge. As the waves come up, birth comes, growth comes, I have not increased. I have not gained anything. I'm still the same. Old age comes, disease comes, failure comes, death comes. I have not lost anything at all. I'm exactly the same. Nate vriddhi navahani. There is no loss to you, no gain to you. You're ever the same. Thus, being peaceful, live out your little existence as this wave. Fine, you're perfectly all right. And then before you lies the foam and the surf and all of that. That'll also be fun. He goes further, number 12. Tata chinmatra ruposi, Tata chinmatra ruposi, Nate bhinnam idam jagat, Nate bhinnam idam jagat, Ata kasya katham kutra, Ata kasya katham kutra, Heyopadeya kalpana, Heyopadeya kalpana. My child, you are pure consciousness itself. This universe is nothing different from you. Therefore, how and where can anyone have the idea of acceptance and rejection? Very deep. These are all the implications of realizing your limitless consciousness. This universe is you. Not only am I this mind and body. Notice, first we distanced ourselves from mind and body. I'm not the body, not the mind, I'm pure consciousness. Now we see mind, body, the other minds and bodies, living beings, non-living beings, they're all nothing but me. Because they're appearing in me. I am appearing in all these forms. This is Brahman, the limitless, the vast. Just as in my dream, I am in my own dreams. I don't remember it's a dream. And my friends are there, people I don't like are there. There are dogs and cats and sky and earth, all of them are there. And when I wake up, I realize all of it, living, non-living, including I and including the others, they were all me, the dreamer. In the same way, this entire universe is my projection. Not one person here is different from me. Not one being here is different from me. We are now understand the depth and the power and the profundity of Ma Sharada's last words, is her last teaching. To this lady who was attending to her, she said, my daughter, the whole world is your own. No one is an other. Learn to make the world your own. Do not find fault with others. If you want to find fault with yourself if you want peace. It's grounded in the highest non-dual realization. Heya upadeya kalpana. Our whole life consists of likes and dislikes and action prompted by likes and dislikes. I like that kind of food. I must get hold of that. I dislike this kind of food. I don't want it. I like that job. I dislike this kind of work. I like those people. I dislike these people. I like that place and not this place. And I work towards filling my life with things I prefer and getting rid of things and people I don't prefer. And that preferences keep changing. And so I'm engaged from years and years, from my childhood to teenage. Always we have preferences, likes and dislikes, and we are pursuing those. If you are wise about your preferences, if you cultivate art and music and philosophy, if you cultivate good habits and service, self-control, those are your preferences, you'll have a much better life. And we are not wise about our preferences. We give into addiction, we give into negative behavior and feeling, then our lives will be painful. But all of them are struggles. And Ashtavakra says this is samsara, a little better samsara, a little darker samsara, heaven and hell. I love that heaven and hell are inside us. I love that story about the Zen master, whom this samurai warrior came to the Zen master and said, teach me about heaven and hell. And the Zen master calmly said, I have no time for fools like you. And the samurai couldn't believe his ears. He was this warrior. He drew his sword. How dare you speak to me like that? Do you know I can cut off your head without blinking my eyes? And without even a blink of my eyes, I can cut off your head. Then that master said, that is hell. And the samurai was stunned. He put his sword back and he bowed deeply and he said, thank you. The master said, that is heaven. So he pointed out what is heaven and hell. But both are samsara, good samsara, a bad samsara. Both are appearing in you, the limitless consciousness. And he says, when is this acceptance and rejections? When is this thirst for getting certain things, arranging your life? See, when we are foolish, we want to fill our lives, arrange our lives with things, gadgets and property, and I want to put, this will be beautiful if I arrange the external world. Then I realize people are more important than things. So then next foolishness, I try to control people, make them like me, make them behave the way I want, for their own good, obviously, not for my own good. I can't control myself. Look at the foolishness of it. And I want to change people's behavior. It's so difficult. When I realize that's foolish, that will not work, I become a little more mature and I say, all right, let me change myself. So, all right, I have to wake up early and do some yoga and eat gluten-free and go to Vedanta talks, and I try to improve myself. That is the limit. I realize the real thing is the mind. So let me see, this is the gradation of life, spiritual development. I become even more wise. I say, okay, the real thing is peace is in the mind, not outside, not in people, not in my physical day-to-day life, in the mind. So let me decorate the mind now. Let me fill the mind with a mantra, with holy thoughts, with positive thinking and affirmation and meditation, the cultivation of the inner life. You say, that's great, isn't it? Even then, there is an acceptance and a rejection. Those are now bad thoughts, non-Vedantic thoughts. These are now good thoughts. These are holy thoughts, spiritual thoughts, Ashtavakra, and not the nasty neighbor. I'm going to have this. I'm pushing them out and taking this in. This is good, but still it is samsara. Still samsara. There's acceptance and rejection. You had worldly problems earlier. Now you're much wiser. You have spiritual problems now. Earlier, when am I going to strike rich and make $1 million? And now, oh, that's all materialism. That's for immature people. Now my problem is, when am I going to become enlightened and get moksha? And I worry endlessly. And people come, Swamiji, bless me. I don't want anything. Bless me that I may get moksha in this very life. Oh, very nice. That's also ignorance. Because what is Ashtavakra telling you? You already have freedom. It's like a billionaire asking for a buck, a handout. You already have this freedom. Ashtavakra is pointing that out. You are this vast, limitless sky. And as the sky gives space for everything in this universe, the good, the bad, the ugly, you give space for, you not only should, you do actually. The whole of life appears in you. You see underneath everything in life, the good, the bad, the ugly, the nice people, the awful people, the good events, the terrible events, birth, death, health, sickness. Underlying all of them is this one limitless ocean of consciousness, which you are. This world is because you are. Somebody said, and I'll tell you in Hindi and then translate, that it's a mistake. The monk said it's a mistake. हम सोचते हैं कि संसार के चलते हमारा मन अशांत है, लेकिन वास्तव में हमारे मन की अशांति के चलते संसार है. I'll translate that. It's a beautiful insight. We think it's because of samsara, because of the world and its people and endless problems, that my mind is disturbed. And the monk said, no, it's the other way around. It's because your mind is disturbed, that's why the samsara is there. And the truth of this, you can see in day-to-day life. I often point out, doctors know this. When you come across a patient with a serious life-threatening illness and you have to break the bad news to them, and you're pleasantly surprised how sometimes, how with what dignity and calmness they accept and this, and thank you very much for helping me and so on. There's so many such cases, and you are inspired by the patient. And then you see the other kind who have maybe a minor problem, and they bring the house down with their emotional outburst and unhappiness and complaint, and they make life very difficult for the entire ward, maybe all the doctors and nurses and everybody, for maybe quite a minor problem. What happened then? The problem itself is not the real thing. The real cause of sorrow and suffering is the mind. You are pure consciousness, chin matra, and only pure consciousness. See, when you say Tattvamasi, you are that, you are Brahman. What it means is you're not the body, not the mind, you are pure consciousness. But it also means the other way around. Brahman is nothing but you. There is no Shiva, Vishnu, Ramakrishna, Jesus, Rama, none of them are there other than the real you. All of that which we see as God in religion is basically the real you, not this person, what you truly are. I remember this monk told me a wonderful story again about Swami Premeshanandaji. So this monk, he said, before I became a monk, I used to visit Swami Premeshanandaji, who was her disciple. One day, the Swami, who was quite ill, lying on the bed, called me close, and with a trembling finger suddenly touched me on the forehead. And I was startled because of the touch of the cold finger. And the Swami said, there, that one which got startled. Other than that, there is no rascal called God. In Bengali, he said, oi, oi, je chomke utlo, o chhada kono shala bhagavan nei. Now, it doesn't mean that young man who was startled. It means the consciousness in which this reaction appeared, that limitless awareness. That is God. That is the reality of God. Nate bhinnam idam jagat. This universe is not apart from you. You are not this universe, but it's not apart from you. Just like the dream world which appears in your dreams. You are not that dream world. You're not even the person in the dream, but they are not apart from you. They can't exist other than you. When you wake up, they all disappear. Then next, number 13. This session is up to 12:15, right? 12:30? Oh, good. Ekasmin avyaye shante. Ekasmin avyaye shante. Chidakashe amale tvayi. Chidakashe amale tvayi. Kuto janma kuto karma. Kuto janma kuto karma. Kuto hankara evacha. Kuto hankara evacha. From where will there be birth, action, and even egoism for you who are one immutable, calm, stainless, and pure consciousness? This is a meditation. These are all meditation verses, especially this one. Look at the first line. Ekasmin, in the one. See, our experience of the universe is its diversity. First thing that strikes us, there are many here. He says, all these many are appearances in the one. Ekasmin, in one. What is that one? Abhyaya, unchanging, in the undecaying. The universe for us is continuously decaying. The word jagat means gacchati, that which is continuously flowing past. The word sharira, body, it means that which is continuously decaying and going towards death. But you are the undecaying, abhyaya, unchanging. Shanti, what a beautiful word. Not in the peaceful, in peace itself. In the one consciousness, in that undecaying ultimate reality, which is peace itself. Good for it. What about me? You are that. Tvai, in you. What kind of you? You are one, undecaying, peace itself. What am I made of? Chidakasha. You are the sky of consciousness. This is a term which comes again and again. Here is a physical sky. Here is a mental sky, the sky of thoughts, emotions, memories, ego, intellect, our thoughts. That's a sky. It's called Chittakasha, the sky of mind sky. And there is consciousness sky. Beyond that, illumining all. In the consciousness sky is enveloped the mind sky. In the mind sky appears the physical sky. Vaster than the physical universe is the mind universe. Don't think our minds, this is one mind only. It's all connected, all minds, the world wide web of minds. In Vedanta, it's called Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic mind. It's all one mind, much vaster than the physical universe. And much vaster, limitlessly so, is the sky of consciousness. Sky of consciousness means consciousness itself, which you are. In you, which you, in the sky. What sky? In consciousness. What is this consciousness? Shanta, ever beyond all trouble. Notice the sky. Whatever is happening, the sky is unaffected. If there's a flood, does the sky get wet? No. If there's a bonfire, does the sky get hot? Yes, it does. Global warming. No, it's the air. Space doesn't get heated. Space by itself is unaffected. I have seen when we as monks, when elderly monks pass away in our main monastery, we have special permission from the Siri to cremate the monks there in the monastery on the bank of the Ganga. So it's a wonderful ceremony, usually takes place after midnight and continues all night long. So it's a blazing fire. You can't approach it when the body is being cremated. And we do it traditionally, not in an electric crematorium. We do it with wood. And you can't approach it. It's very hot. But you notice it's the air which is hot. The space right there in the middle of that blazing bonfire, space is not heated. So space is not affected. Just as this physical space is not affected, even more so you, the consciousness space, you are not affected. Shanta. In the midst of storms, in the midst of heat waves, in the midst of cold waves, in the midst of deluge, floods, space is the same. Similarly, in the midst of all sorrows and afflictions, the space of consciousness is the same. In fact, it is because this space is there that a bonfire can exist, that global warming can happen, that a flood can happen. Also, nice things can happen. It's because of this space. Similarly, it is because of you, the space of consciousness, that everything in this universe happens. And so if you are this space, and then he says, Kuto Janma, from where will you be born? Kuto Karma, where will there be any karma? Kuto Ahankar, where is there any ego? They're all appearances and disappearances in you, the limitless space. And thus you are free of karma. So one way of understanding spiritual life in the Indian traditions, all Indian traditions, very interesting. All Hindus, all Buddhists, all Jains, and all Sikhs, all the Indian traditions, which are so diverse, enormously diverse. Internal diversity is there within Hinduism also. Some believe in God, the Buddhists don't believe in God. We keep talking about Atma, the Buddhists talk about Anatma. Vast differences, but this common belief, axiomatic almost, multiple lifetimes and karma. Karma and rebirth. Karma and rebirth is commonly accepted. One monk put it this way, Ye gambhir tattva hai Mahatma ji. This is a very serious, very profound philosophy, very profound philosophical principle. What? Karma and rebirth. It means you take it seriously. There may be so many metaphysical, epistemological differences between the different darshanas, philosophies in India. But this is common. If it is common, take it seriously. So one way of spiritual life, the way it has been understood in all these systems, is freedom from this cycle of birth and death. That means freedom from karma. And here is freedom from karma. Each philosophy has its own way of saying, by the grace of God, you'll be free from karma. Avatara, one of the specialities of avatara is you can destroy your past karma. But here he says, what karma? Kuto karma. In that vast sky of consciousness, does it have any karma? No. It's only the entities which appear in that consciousness sky which seem to have karma. But you, the sky of consciousness, Brahman, does it have any karma? No. Does it have any ego which will say, I am doing good, I am doing bad, and I will have good and bad karma? No ego. And if there is no karma, no ego, there will be no karma. If there is no karma, there will be no birth and death. Kuto janma, from where will there be birth? And yet the movie plays on, movie of samsara. Just as waves in the ocean arise, swabhavata, of their own nature. Similarly, samsara arises and plays around of its own nature. You have no problem with it. It's like you go to a movie hall and they're going to show a great tragedy. So I'll prevent the tragedy from happening. Stop the movie. Would you do that? No. It's all right, let the movie play. I'll cry along with the tragedy. I'll weep for the hero. The next movie will be a comedy. I'll laugh with the comedy, but I know both are tragedy and comedy do not affect the screen. Similarly, you are one with everything. When you see suffering, I alone am suffering in that form. You don't feel, see, here's a wrong understanding of Advaita. It's all false anyway, so why should I help anybody? But you help yourself. When you feel hungry, you eat, turn up to eat. When you feel like going to the washroom, you make a line for the washroom. When you feel hot, you turn on the AC. It's only when it comes to others, oh, they are all appearances in consciousness. Why should I have them? One of our masters, one of my teachers in our main monastery, he scolded us when we would go on and on about non-duality. He said, you fools, bhakti is for Ishvara, for Bhagavan, and jnana is for yourself. And I am not the body, not the mind. But you fools, you apply jnana to Bhagavan. Oh, it's just an appearance. I am consciousness. God is an appearance. I am the reality of God, after all. I've learned from Ashtavakra. And you apply bhakti to yourself. When it's time for the meal, bell goes in the monastery, we all make a beeline for. I wonder what's there in the menu today. No, be very careful there. Bhakti to the Lord and jnana for yourself. And for all sentient beings, seva, service. Swami Ranganathanji put it so beautifully. What is spirituality? When I close my eyes, I find peace within. See, here is the peace. Close my eyes means when you look at yourself. Here is peace. You are the limitless sky of consciousness. When I open my eyes, my attitude is, what can I do for you? That is spirituality. Swami Akhandananda, disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, who started relief works, famine relief works for starving people in Murshidabad in Bengal, which is now on the border of Bangladesh and India. And to feed poor people, starving people, started a school for orphans because many people had died in the starvation and the children in the orphanage. So a great Pandit wrote to him, you are great monks, a disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. You should, pass your days in study and meditation. Why schools and feeding the poor and all? What is all this? So he wrote back a fiery letter, Akhandanji, I've read that. He says, the Atman is ever free. Don't you teach, he tells that Pandit, don't you teach this? The Atman is ever free. Then why make efforts for the freedom of the Atman? On the other hand, the very Brahman, which you value so much, that limitless existence, consciousness, bliss, I see clearly that Brahman is ill-clad, is starving and dying for a morsel of food, is uneducated, suffering from oppression and illiteracy. I will give up. Why this one life? You're saying, why are you giving up your life like this? You should meditate and study. What to speak of this one life? I'll give up 1,000 lives if I can wipe the tears of the suffering. The same Brahman appearing in these ways. Why will you dismiss it? If I feel pain here, if I feel, and I am pleased if you come and offer me medicine, if I feel hunger here, and I'm pleased when you come and offer me food, then I should be very equally pleased if the sick, if the hungry are treated and fed, because I am that. Okay. So here is freedom from karma. One more verse, we'll stop and take questions. Yattvam pashyasi tatraika, yattvam pashyasi tatraika, tvameva pratibhasase, tvameva pratibhasase, king prithak bhasate swarnat, king prithak bhasate swarnat, Katakangadanupuram, Katakangadanupuram. You yourself appear as what you perceive. Do bracelets, armlets, and anklets appear different from gold? Whatever you experience, you are that. This is a perfect time for the story of the princes of Kashi. I haven't told it ad nauseum, but still, it's worth repeating. How many of you have not heard it? Only 3, 4. Oh God. How many of you would like to hear it again? Okay, good. I'm going to tell you anyway. Yeah, it perfectly fits this teaching. So in ancient India, in a kingdom, there was a play performed in the court for the entertainment of the king and the queen and the courtiers. And one of the characters in the play was supposed to be the princess of Kashi. Who would play? The princess of Kashi was supposed to be a little girl. Now, the prince of that kingdom was a cute little boy, 5 years old, and the queen said, why not dress him up as a princess, as a girl, and he can play the role. And he did that, and he looked so cute. The queen said to the court painter, paint a portrait of him in this dress. Today, it would be so easy, take a picture immediately with a mobile phone. So the little prince, dressed as the princess of Kashi, posed for the portrait, and it was done. Years passed, and the prince grew up. 15 years later, he was this young man, and one day he was exploring the palace, and he goes to the basement of the palace where old stuff is kept, and he sees this painting, and he wipes the dust of this painting, and he sees this little girl, and he sees Princess of Kashi, dated 15 years ago, and he thinks, oh, she's my age, and what a beautiful girl. He falls in love with her, and he says, I want to marry this princess. But he's too shy to tell his parents or anybody else, but he mopes, he doesn't do his princely duties and whatnot. The king is worried, the queen is worried, but he doesn't open up his heart to them. Finally, a wise old minister takes the prince aside and says, what ails you, prince? Please tell me. You can confide in me. And he says, I'm in love. And the minister says, good. Who is the lucky girl? And he says, oh, it's a princess. A princess, even better. We can avoid the whole Harry Meghan problem then. And then a princess, very good. Oh, she is the princess of Kashi. Princess of Kashi, I see. Where did you meet her? I haven't met her, but there's an old painting of her in our, I just saw that, and it's an old one. It's 15 years ago, but she's clearly my age. And I just want to marry her, and I will not be happy until I marry her, and I don't want to marry anybody else. And the minister thought, a princess of Kashi, you say, an old painting, you say. Can you show me the painting? And the prince takes him down to the basement and shows him, this is the painting. This is the one I want to marry. And then the minister said, oh, prince, you need to sit down. That is not the princess of Kashi. Well, whoever she is, even if she is a Hollywood actor and I'm going to marry, not a royal, I'm going to marry her. No, prince, listen. Years ago, there was this whole theatrical performance, and he tells him the whole story, how he as a little boy came to be dressed up, and then a painting was made, and that's the painting. That thou art, Tattvamasi, O prince, you are that. Now the question is, what happened to the prince's desire for the princess of Kashi? It disappeared immediately, right? Why did it disappear? Because he couldn't marry her? Or because she didn't exist? No, not even she didn't exist. She does exist. But it's because I am that. There is nothing, there's nobody like that apart from me whom I can, marry, have in my life. Because I am already that. And I always am that. What you see, just like that, the world is our princess of Kashi. I have separated myself from the world, and that is nice. And I want that. And then I work towards it. That is awful, and I'm scared of that, and I run away from it. All of it is I. Swami Vivekananda puts it in this way. He says, things are dead in themselves. We breathe life into them, and then we run away from them or run after them. They're not only dead in themselves, they have no existence apart from you. You give them existence, just like things in a dream, or like the princess of Kashi. Yattvam pashyasi. Whatever you see, this variety, tatraeka, there is no variety, there's one. And what is that one? You. Then why is this so much different? Pratibhas, it's an appearance. In all the things and places you see in your dream, in all the events, good and bad, which happen in your dreams, there's only one. Who is that one? You, the dreamer. But in your dreams, the dreamer is never there. You are there, but the person sleeping in the bed and dreaming, that person is never there in the dream. That person has become the entire dream universe for that time being, appears. Become means appears. Pratibhasa say, appears as the dream universe. Bradley, the great British philosopher, was just before Bertrand Russell and all at Cambridge. Sorry, at Oxford, I think. Yes, at Oxford. He said famously, what appears is not real, and reality never appears. You see, it fits Advaita so well. What appears is not real, reality never appears. I read recently this Bradley. He was very Advaitic. He didn't know about Advaita, but just by sheer thinking about it, he came up with this. He has a book, Reality and Appearance, Appearance and Reality. I studied it with a philosophy teacher who was a disciple of Swami Abhedanandaji. And this philosophy teacher is to come and teach us in our monastery. He was a retired teacher of philosophy. So he was delighted that somebody wants to study. This is an obscure philosopher. Nobody studies Bradley these days, but you want to study. So I was not a Swami, I was a brahmachari at that time. Very good, I'll teach you. So he gave up his precious afternoon siesta to teach me. We studied only the appearance part of it. We never got to the reality. So, appearance and reality. But recently I was reading about Bradley. It's not at all relevant, but it's interesting factoid. It doesn't help to be just a philosopher. One must live that philosophy. So Bradley, he was famous in Oxford as a recluse. And he wouldn't meet with people. He wouldn't talk to people. But he would be seen around campus, especially at night, with a gun. He would go hunting for cats. He hated cats. That's a little factoid I learned just recently. It happened at Harvard once. A few years back in a philosophy class, I was there and the rest of their grad students. And the professor quoted from Bradley and he said, do you know who this is? And nobody could say. Who's heard of Bradley? Who studied Bradley? They're all PhD students in philosophy at Harvard. They all kept quiet and I tentatively raised my hand. He said, you're so delighted. See, the monk here from India, he has studied Bradley and none of you have read Bradley. Appearance and Reality, that book. Anyway, that was interesting. Kim prithak bhasate swarna. He gives an example. Gold and ornaments, armlets, anklets, bracelets, necklaces. Do they ever appear apart from the gold which constitutes them? No. So whenever you're seeing them, the names are different, uses are different, the forms are different of all these ornaments, but in reality, they are gold. Somebody said, yeah, that might be true, but the real value, I said in one class, the value depends upon gold. And somebody said, not really. The value depends upon, the Tiffany's jeweler who has made it into beautiful forms, not the gold itself. It's the form which is important. And for arts, workmanship, I said, not really. Think a little more deeply. Suppose I say, you keep your precious Tiffany's necklace. I just take the gold away from it. How much value will it have? If I take the gold away from the golden necklace, how much will it exist at all? No, it will disappear. How much value will it have? Nothing. Yes, you have added value onto it with your craftsmanship. Maya adds value, value added Brahman. This is the universe. But in reality, it is Brahman alone which gives value to this universe. Let me just end with an observation, and then we take questions. The three great questions of philosophy are, what is real? How do you know anything? And what's the point of it all? So in any philosophy, the branches are metaphysics, reality. What's real? Is the world real or is it false? Is God real? Is the self real? What not? What is real here? So reality, questions of being and reality. There's a fancy new term for metaphysics. It's called ontology, the science of being, of existence. That's one branch. The second branch of philosophy is, how do you know these things? How do you know anything? The science of knowledge, epistemology. How do you know something? Oh, I see it, or I hear it, or I have reasoned it out, like that. So what is knowledge and how do we gain knowledge? Epistemology. And third, what's the point of it all? What's good? What is right? What is wrong? What is the goal of life? All of these questions, they're all bundled together. Earlier, there were different branches. They were called, like, ethics was one branch. Aesthetics was another branch. Aesthetics studied what was beautiful, art. Ethics studied what was right and wrong. Now they've all been bundled together helpfully under one branch called axiology, the study of values, moral values, artistic values, and so on. Values, what is worthwhile? What is the point of it all? And I was just thinking, suddenly it occurred to me, look at how we talk about Brahman. Sat, Chit, Ananda. It is existence, it is consciousness, it is Ananda, which is bliss. Aren't these the answers to these three questions? What is real? Ontology, that's the basic question. Brahman, existence is real. Sat, pure being is real. And that's what lends reality to everything. Sat lends reality to everything. How do we know anything? How is knowledge possible? Consciousness, Chaitanya. And what is the point of it all? Ananda. Ultimately, moral, aesthetic values, all of them culminate in this bliss, which is the point of this whole universe and the whole life, all of life. So, Sat Chit Ananda, this is the answer, and that doesn't end here. The next bombshell is, this Sat Chit Ananda is one thing. It's not, there are not three things. There are not three answers to three questions. It's one answer to all three questions. That which is real, that it's the same thing which makes all knowledge and experience possible. It's the same thing which is the goal and purpose of this entire universe and our lives. Even that is not the end, the final bombshell. What is this Satchidananda? Where is it? What is it? It's you. It's you. Tattvamasi. The real you. Good. Let's take up questions. Please queue up here, the lady first. We have to queue up here, and the microphone will be held here, and some questions will come from Mataji from the internet audience. Please queue up. Please ask the question. That's it. No more people. We'll have 3, 4, 5. The gentleman can come, and the two gentlemen at the back. Yes. Tell us your name and ask the question and speak into the microphone.
Sure. Namaskar, Swamiji. Thank you for being there for all of us. And I'm Sonal. And my question is, with the Panchakosh, we talk about, we can go until the intellect, the Vigyanmaya Kosha.
Just turn the microphone towards you.
Like, right. Okay. So we go until the Vigyanmaya Kosha, that is the intellect. We can understand, like I can understand till then. When it comes to Anandmaya Kosha, when it comes to the bliss, it's related to when we go in deep sleep, we have that, experience, but there is no direct experience. We just, with the faith and Shraddha, we think that there was a bliss there. And so as a, a student of Vedanta and an unenlightened person, I can do Chit and Satya and Chit. I can understand like the existence and consciousness. I can understand and I can experience that. But the bliss part, I cannot understand. And can I get the experience and understanding of the bliss part?
Let's put it this way. So the precise question is of this form, that I understand I exist. I understand that I am aware. So I have an inkling of existence awareness. But that it is Ananda or bliss, that's not very clear to me. That's the question. Yes. It is the very limitlessness of your existence and awareness, of you the existence, of you the awareness, that is Ananda. I'll repeat. What is the source of my misery? It's not really that I didn't get what I wanted or people behaved badly to me. No. Why did I want the things I wanted? Why do I even care how people behave with me? It's because I find myself limited. by getting the things I want, the relationships I want, the appreciation I want, all of these things are wanted because I have some kind of feeling that they will fulfill me. If I want those things to fulfill me, I feel unfulfilled. Only when I feel apurnam, not whole, not fulfilled, then I want to add things to myself. But that will never fulfill me. Till now, it has not fulfilled me. What Vedanta says is that you are ever fulfilled. You are this limitless existence. So what Vedanta tries to show us is our unhappiness is due to our sense of limitation, of smallness. And when our sense of limitation goes away, when we see ourselves as unlimited, when we see that, all our sense of limitation and lack of fulfillment will go away. We will find endless peace, endless fulfillment in our real nature as Brahman. So what this Satya and Chit, Sat and Chit, limitless Sat, limitless Chit, this is Ananda itself. When I realize I am immortal, I cannot die. When I realize I am the consciousness which lights up the entire world, by your light, the world is lit up, you shining, everything else shines, then I am ever fulfilled. That is the fulfillment we are seeking for. When you realize, when you stay with that, you realize that I don't really need anything, nothing in this world can actually add to me. Just like the princess of Kashi. It cannot add to the prince because the princess of Kashi is nothing other than me. There was no difference between the prince and the princess of Kashi, which needed to be bridged by the prince marrying the princess of Kashi. More details if you want. I have given a talk, In Search of Bliss. If you want to look at the text in Taittiriya Upanishad, second chapter is called Brahmananda Valli, the bliss of Brahman. There, the last part, 8th section onwards, is called Ananda Mimamsa, a calculus and analysis of bliss. You read that and Shankaracharya's commentary. Yes. Please tell us your name and ask the question.
Pranam Swamiji. My name is Sonali Dave. I have two questions, short questions.
Yeah, you have to be precise, right?
Yes.
Sharpen the question.
Yes. So we have Shastra Pramana for rebirth, and we have anecdotal examples, about people experiencing memories of past births. Is there any logical way of explaining rebirth?
Oh, logical way is there, definitely. As you said, anecdotal experience, there's a lot of information, especially University of Virginia. There's a project, I don't know if you have heard about it. A professor in his whole department, they have collected over decades, collected so many thousands of cases across the world. You might expect people in India to be having experiences of past lives because they are all convinced about past lives, but not in India. Here in the United States or in European countries, everywhere. So a lot of anecdotal evidence is there. The Shastra Pramana, the texts tell us, the masters tell us, and logic is pretty easy. It goes back to the law of karma. Karma is cause and effect. Mm-hmm. Causes have effects. Actions have consequences. So if you see some effects means whatever is happening in life, then all of these have causes, past causes. And whatever we do now will give rise to effects. Now, when a child is born, you look at children born in different families, in different circumstances, you're seeing different effects. But you are not seeing the cause because the child was just born. Why is a child born to a poor family? Why is a child born to an underdeveloped part of the world? Why is another child born to rich parents in living in Texas, maybe? So the effects are different. Clearly, the causes there must be causes, because everything has a cause. So the causes must have existed earlier, but that baby did not exist earlier. So that jiva, sentient being who's inhabiting the body of that baby now, must have existed earlier to do all the karma which led to this. But that earlier existence also must have been caused by karma before this. So a beginningless chain of karma and a beginningless chain of past births. But all our karma is not exhausted in this life, because as the results keep coming, we also react to it and we do things. So it generates future consequences. So future lives. So the direct answer to your question is multiple lifetimes. The cycle of birth and death is dictated by the logic of karma, cause and effect.
Okay. And second is, can you talk about the the logic where we refute that the consciousness arises because of the brain function? You explained it, but if you can just
So
re-explain
the
that little
logic
bit.
that consciousness arises because of the brain function, what's the logic behind it? The logic is this assumption everything has to be physical. Where did this assumption come from? Mostly from modern science. Everything is seen to be physical. And so all the cause and effect, causality of modern science insists that these physical effects will have a physical cause. So there will be a cause and effect. Clearly, now you can see there is a correlation between the brain and our conscious experiences, especially revealed more and more by fMRI studies.
Okay.
So there is some neuronal activity and we report our conscious experiences. There's a correlation, close correlation. Now, what is the logic against it? The logic against it is you see neuronal activity. But I am experiencing an orange clock. I'm experiencing the taste of coffee. I am seeing a red flower. That burst of electricity and the taste of coffee and this experience of seeing orange, where is the connection? You are seeing an orange glass. And if somebody scans your brain, they will find some neuronal activity. How is that burst of electricity translating into your vivid conscious experience of I, Sonali Dave, am seeing an orange clock? Where is the connection? You must show how it works. Nobody can show. And the reason they cannot show is also devastating. See, there are some who will say that, give us more time, we will work it out. That's called promissory materialism. I promise you a materialistic solution in 10, 20, 30. Right now, 25-year debate. What happened, at the debate? Finally, when this 25 years was over, just last month, the conclusion was we have made no breakthrough. You can Google it. Many magazines carried the story. We have made no breakthrough in understanding consciousness with the help of brain processes. So finally, in a public ceremony, Christoph Koch had to give a crate of champagne to David Chalmers. And he said, give me 25 more years, we will see. How is a physical process generating a subjective experience? There is no other example. All other processes are physical. See, whatever is happening in this world, say in the fan or in the computer, they can all be explained in objective terms. There is no internal thing going on there. Why is it going on in our brainstem? Why is the brain, which is basically a physical thing, an organic machine, biological machine, how is it that it is different from everything else in the universe and it has an internal state called consciousness? How? Nothing else in the universe has it. Another argument we can give from our modern experience with AI. Look, AI, right now with ChatGPT and all, it can mimic, replicate, model whatever we thought was uniquely human. Intelligence. We thought intelligence is human. A calculator can have memory, so memory is okay, it can be replicated. But intelligence, human beings are intelligent. When the Deep Blue beat the most intelligent chess masters, then that got a blow. Oh, computers can be intelligent also. Already intelligent, but they are soulless. Imagination is not there. Creativity is not there. Now computers are creative. They're beating human beings in short story writing competition, in painting competition, in music competition, beating human beings. I was giving an example. I gave ChatGPT a task of composing a poem on Swami Vivekananda, and it did it. It will immediately, within seconds. And it's a good poem. I mean, it will not win the Nobel Prize for Literature, but it's not a bad poem also. But where ChatGPT can do something which none of us can do is when I gave it the task of give me another poem on Vivekananda. It gave another poem, a different poem on Vivekananda. And if you keep on asking it to make new poems on Vivekananda, it will do that throughout the day. No poet in the world and all poets together also cannot do it. So creativity, 1,000 times more than human beings. Already computers are doing that. Now, what's my point? My point is there's only one thing which we have, which computers cannot replicate, AI cannot replicate. What is that? Consciousness. And consciousness, without consciousness, no experience. They are not really experiencing anything internally. You say, how do you know? Well, you ask the experts. Go to Silicon Valley and ask Google and Facebook and all of those people and OpenAI. Are your AIs conscious? And they will laugh and they say, we have no idea what consciousness is. So we have not programmed consciousness into these AIs. So my question here is, but why is it so difficult to model consciousness or replicate consciousness? After all, creativity is a difficult thing, complex thing. Intelligence is a complex thing. And you have managed to model those and replicate and make it work so well. Why can't you do that same thing for consciousness? Because consciousness is basically very simple. What does consciousness do? See, what does it do for us? It gives us experience, first person experience, anubhava, experience of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, pain, pleasure, desire, spirituality, all experiences, God, all experiences because of consciousness. This first person experience, that's what consciousness does, and that's the only thing that consciousness does. Why is it? It's a simple thing. Why can't you replicate it? Not only you cannot replicate it, AI researchers, computer scientists, brain scientists, they have no idea also where to begin. How to make a thing conscious. You can make a thing behave consciously, as if conscious, but not internally conscious. You wouldn't even know how to do that, or how to even measure it, how to even detect it. No way. Okay. Yes. All right. An internet question. Yes.
This is from Rita. Our sense organs, including the mind, can only perceive objects with all their dualities because that's the nature of senses. The mind needs an object for exercising its natural cognitive ability. However, Atman or Brahman is not an object. How does one realize this Atman, that is their real self, through Vedantic meditation without using the mind?
How does one realize Atman or Brahman without using the mind? You do use the mind. After all, I hope everybody's been using the mind. The mind is necessary. Manasai vedam aptavyam. Upanishad says, by the mind alone it is to be known. And it also says, yan manasana manute, by the mind it cannot be known. So this is a complex subject. The technical terms here are vritti vyapti and phala vyapti. Those who have studied Vedanta, they know. I'm not going to go into that. There is something that the mind does. Basically, what the mind does is it removes our ignorance about ourselves. But the experience, the realization of Brahman, I am that is always continuously present. When our ignorance about it is removed, it becomes obvious. That becoming obvious is not done by the mind. See, the example is this. This object cannot be seen unless the light is on. The light is on, it shines on this object. An inert object, non-luminous object, has to be illumined by the light before it can be seen. But the light does not have to be illumined by the light before it can be seen. So here you have not only have to see, take a look at it, but also illumine it, then you can see it. There you have to take a look at it, that's all. You don't have to do anything to it. You can see it immediately because it's always revealing itself. That taking a look at it, taking a look at that part, mind, you require the mind. Taking a look at that is what Vedanta does for you. It orients the mind. It saturates the mind with Vedantic thought, and it points the mind in the right direction. These are all figurative language. There's no particular direction where you will find Brahman. So it points the mind in the right direction. And then in the right direction, when you look, there it is. But the mind did not illumine Brahman. Brahman is always, Atman is, Brahman is always self-revealed. In Vivek Chudamani, there is a beautiful meditative verse given by Shankaracharya, where it says, that it is not seen by the senses, but drishyate vimala bodha chakshushaha, by the eyes of pure consciousness. Sri Ramakrishna says, what is that enlightenment like? In Bengali, he said it, bodhe bodhkara, awareness of awareness. becoming conscious of consciousness in consciousness itself. There's no other way of putting it. All right. The gentleman here.
My name is Kamesh Namaduri. Thank you, Swamiji, for the
Short question. We
yeah.
are going to run out of
Yeah.
time, so we're going to do a
Very-
rapid fire round.
Sure.
3 more are there.
Yeah. Thanks for a wonderful retreat, actually. And you correct my statements if you can. Please help me in understanding. You said yesterday after you need to mull and you need to understand, and when we what you call marinate. So all of us had this wonderful experience. In some sense, can we call that we had some glimpse, a minute glimpse of what I call aparakshanubhuti. And if that is correct, and if we continue doing so, we can actually also get to pratyakshānubhuti. Please.
Yes, it is true. It's a process of familiarization. I use the term marinating. Somebody pointed out to me, Swami, obviously you don't know anything about cooking. Marinating is a pre-cooking process, not after cooking. Anybody who's cooked knows that. So yes, so either marinating, you can say staying with the teachings. Or another word is familiarization. And now we know it, we have heard it, and maybe you have understood it also. But now we have to become familiar with it. That means staying with it. Another term is assimilation. Swami Vivekananda says. Yes, all of those are true. And your understanding is correct. You stay with it. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Swamiji. I'll be very brief.
What's your name?
Indranil. Thanks so much for explaining the hard problem of consciousness to Sonali's question. So my question is slightly different in the sense, what if AI actually becomes conscious in 1,000 years, just like you said, promissory, this thing. So does the framework of Advaita Vedanta permit or, accommodate the possibility of AI becoming conscious?
Actually, in principle, there's no problem because this empirical consciousness, the consciousness which we are feeling now, is what is called reflected awareness, reflected consciousness. In Sanskrit, Chidabhasa, the shadow consciousness, which is what we feel all the time. This requires pure consciousness to be there and a reflector like the mind. Now, if somehow you develop software or hardware to the extent where it can model the human mind. Now, according to Advaita, pure consciousness is everywhere. Actually, space itself appears in pure consciousness. So in that case, if you can model the human mind, immediately there will be a reflected consciousness there, and you will have a conscious AI.
Pranam Swamiji, Raju, blessed are we. With reference to Bhagavad Gita, these teachings, were they before it appears? So, before Bhagavad Gita time, Astavakra and Janaka Maharaj.
Probably, I mean, if you take it in a sense of the Puranic sense, Janaka would be at the time of Ramachandra and Sita.
Yuga.
So Krishna would be later, yes. Yeah, that's the last question.
Last but not the least.
Okay, that's not the least.
Pranam Swamiji, my name is Ramesh. I have 2 questions. Yesterday you talked about Shraddha and Jnana. So does understanding, or is it a prerequisite to faith, or is it a consequence of faith?
It's a consequence of faith. See, it's a good question. It starts off as Shraddha, as the firm feeling there is something valuable, worthwhile here. What the teacher is saying, what the text is saying, what the tradition is saying, there's something ultimately real and extremely valuable and important for me being taught here. That is Shraddha. That will keep you on course until you see for yourself. When you see for yourself, you can no longer say, I have Shraddha. Now you know. So Shraddha, what begins as Shraddha, as faith, as conviction, that after enlightenment, after realization, after that Brahmakara vritti, after that, that remains, that continues, but that continues, the new name is Nishtha. Nishtha means staying with it. There's a term, Jnana Nishtha. Jnana Nishtha. At that point, you're no longer seeking. Right now we are seeking. This is all wonderful. How can I realize it for myself? I'm being promised this is a reality right now, obvious and clear. Let me see for myself. So I'm a seeker. I have Shraddha. When I see for myself, then this Shraddha will remain, but it will take the new form of Nishtha. I have seen now. I'm no longer a seeker. But it's not that, all right, been there, done that, I have got this Advaitic realization, let me move on. What's available for dinner today? Let's see. No, I have found it. This is incredible. I will stay with it. So Shraddha becomes Nishtha.
So another quick one. So we all intellectually understand that we should not be thinking ourselves as the body, and the body is not ours. So what is the need or the drive for taking care or using the rented vehicle?
Yes. As long as the Lord has given us this rented vehicle, it is for our spiritual development benefit and for the welfare of the world. So we need to respect it and take care of it. If we do not, it will lead to increased suffering for ourselves and others. If I do not live healthy, if I behave badly with others, samsara will be disturbed. And it will create such a reaction on you. Poor health, the irritation and annoyance of others. So if I don't take care of the body, if I don't eat healthy, if I don't exercise, I'll become sick. The body will become sick. If I don't turn up for my job tomorrow, I'm Brahman, limitless existence. Why do I need a job? You'll be fired. And if I don't care for my relatives, parents, wife, children, we are just appearances in the sky of consciousness. I am the sky of consciousness, just a cloud passing through. Very soon those clouds will become storm clouds. And samsara will become such a mess, it will disturb your spiritual practice. So you need to live skillfully in samsara, which will enable you to be a spiritual seeker and make you a blessing for others instead of curse for others. Advaita should make us more functional, not dysfunctional. That's why.
Thank you.
Yes. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpana